The team, unable to communicate, plunges into tension at the prospect of losing a $1 million deal. Outside, a young homeless woman walks in and, to everyone's astonishment, speaks fluent Arabic with the man. This simple gesture triggers a twist that will change destinies, revealing that true value lies not in luxury but in people. If you were touched by this beautiful story of resilience and love, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us which city you're watching from. Continuing. The morning sun glinted off the polished chrome and sleek bodywork of luxury vehicles displayed like trophies in the showroom of Prestige Motors, one of Beverly Hills' most exclusive dealerships. The Italian marble floor reflected the overhead lighting, creating an atmosphere of opulence that attracted the wealthiest clients from around the world. Each car represented not just transportation, but status, a statement of success that the elite were willing to pay millions to make. Matthew Thornton, the impeccably dressed sales manager, adjusted his custom Italian tie as he surveyed his domain. At 45, he had mastered the art of catering to the ultra-wealthy. His perfectly whitened smile and firm handshake had closed deals with celebrities, tech billionaires, and foreign dignitaries. Today, however, his confident demeanor masked growing anxiety. The quarterly sales targets were approaching, and despite the showroom's prestigious reputation, numbers were down. "Parker," Matthew called to his assistant, a young man whose ambition was matched only by his eagerness to please. "What's our schedule looking like today?" Parker Wells, 28, and dressed in a suit that cost 2 months of his salary, hurried over with a tablet. "We have Mr. Barton coming at 11 to finalize paperwork on the Aston Martin, and Mrs. Hendricks called to reschedule her test drive of the new Ferrari to tomorrow." Matthew frowned. "That's it? What about the Saudi investor I've been courting?" "No word yet, sir." His assistant said he's still considering options. Outside the gleaming glass entrance, invisible to the men inside, a young woman named Lily sat on a bench across the street. At 24, her appearance told a story far removed from the luxury on display. Her worn clothes hung loosely on tie. Her thin frame, her sneakers were held together with duct tape, and her dark brown hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail. Most passers-by averted their eyes, uncomfortable with the contrast she represented in this wealthy neighborhood. Lily wasn't always homeless. 3 years ago, she had been a promising linguistics student at UCLA, fluent in 5 languages and working toward a bright future. But life had dealt her a series of devastating blows. A scholarship that fell through, a family tragedy, medical bills that drained her savings, and finally, eviction. Now she survived by her wits on the streets of Los Angeles, occasionally finding temporary shelter through outreach programs, but mostly living in the shadows of wealth. The security guard at Prestige Motors had chased her away twice already this week, but something kept drawing her back to this spot. Perhaps it was the cars themselves, gleaming symbols of a life so far removed from her current reality that they seemed almost mythical. Or maybe it was the human drama that played out inside, visible through the glass walls. The theater of wealth and status that she observed, like an anthropologist studying a foreign culture. Today, however, something different caught her attention. A black limousine with diplomatic plates pulled up to the curb, and a tall, distinguished man in his 60s emerged. He wore not the expected Western business attire, but traditional Lebanese formal dress. His grey beard was meticulously trimmed, and his posture radiated dignity. Behind him, 2 younger men in suits exited the vehicle, clearly security personnel. Lily's linguistic instincts immediately awakened. She watched as the man approached the entrance, his expression serious but friendly. This was no ordinary client. His bearing suggested not just wealth but significance, perhaps diplomatic or cultural importance. Inside, the atmosphere shifted instantly. Matthew's face lit up with recognition. This unexpected arrival could salvage their monthly targets. He quickly assembled his top sales team, whispered urgent instructions, and strode forward with his most practiced smile. "Welcome to Prestige Motors," Matthew began, extending his hand. "It's an honor to—" The distinguished visitor smiled, politely, but began speaking in rapid Lebanese Arabic, his hands gesturing expressively. Matthew's smile froze as he realized the fundamental problem. No one on his staff spoke Arabic. "I'm sorry, sir," Matthew interrupted, speaking slowly and loudly as if volume could bridge the language gap. "Do you speak English, Francais, Espanol?" The Lebanese gentleman shook his head apologetically and continued in Arabic, pointing toward the showroom. His security personnel remained silent, apparently also not fluent in English. Panic flashed across Matthew's face. This wasn't just any potential customer. The man's attire, security detail, and diplomatic plates suggested someone of considerable wealth and influence. Losing this sale due to a language barrier was unthinkable. "Parker," he hissed, "get a translator app on your phone, now." Parker fumbled with his smartphone, pulling up a translation app as the Lebanese gentleman continued speaking, his tone becoming slightly frustrated. The security staff exchanged glances, clearly questioning whether this visit was worth their employer's valuable time. "Please, sir," Matthew said desperately, gesturing toward their finest vehicles. "Perhaps you'd like to see our collection." "While we sort this out." Parker thrust his phone forward, the translation app producing a garbled phrase that caused the Lebanese man to frown in confusion. One of the security personnel whispered something, and the visitor checked his watch, his expression suggesting they might leave at any moment. Across the street, Lily watched the unfolding scene with growing interest. Through the glass walls, she could see the Lebanese gentleman's body language and recognized the pattern of social disconnect. She had experienced it herself, the frustration of not being understood, of being dismissed because communication failed. But unlike the salespeople inside, Lily understood every word the man was saying. During her university studies, she had specialized in Middle Eastern languages, including Lebanese Arabic. Her professor, a kind Lebanese woman named Dr. Nassar, had taken Lily under her wing, inviting her to community events and cultural celebrations. For 2 years, Lily had immersed herself in Lebanese culture, history, and language, developing not just vocabulary, but cultural fluency that no app could replicate. Inside the showroom, the situation was deteriorating. Matthew was perspiring visibly now, his sales team frantically trying different approaches. One brought out brochures with pictures, another tried exaggerated pantomime. The distinguished visitor's patience was clearly waning. "Maybe we should call the Lebanese consulate," Parker suggested desperately. "That could take hours," Matthew snapped. "He'll be gone by then." Outside, Lily made a decision. Standing up from her bench, she smoothed her worn clothes as best she could and crossed the street. The security guard by the entrance noticed her approach and moved to intercept, but she walked with such purpose and confidence that he hesitated momentarily. That moment was all she needed. Lily pushed through the glass doors and entered the rarefied air of Prestige Motors. The contrast between her appearance and the environment couldn't have been more stark. Heads turned, expressions of shock and disdain forming on the faces of staff and customers alike. Matthew noticed the intrusion immediately. "Security!" he barked, gesturing frantically toward Lily. "Get her out of here!" But before the guard could reach her, Lily walked directly to the Lebanese gentleman and, in perfect Lebanese Arabic, offered the traditional greeting of respect and welcome. "Assalamu alaikum." "Ahlan wa sahlan bik. Ana ismi Lily. Hal mumkin an usaidak?" "Peace be upon you, welcome. My name is Lily. May I help you?" The showroom fell silent. The Lebanese man's face transformed with surprise and then relief. He responded warmly in his native tongue, his hands gesturing with newfound animation. The security personnel relaxed visibly, exchanging approving glances. Matthew and his team stood frozen, their expressions cycling through shock, confusion, and disbelief. The young homeless woman they had been about to throw out was conversing fluently with the VIP client they had been desperately trying to communicate with. Lily smiled as she listened to the gentleman introduce himself as Ibrahim Khoury, a renowned Lebanese businessman and philanthropist who had come seeking something very specific, not just any luxury vehicle, but a particular vintage model with deep personal significance. The security guard who had been approaching Lily now stood awkwardly nearby looking to Matthew for direction. But Matthew was speechless, his carefully constructed world of prestige and exclusivity suddenly upended by this unexpected turn of events. Ibrahim Khoury's eyes lit up as he continued speaking with Lily, his hands moving expressively as he explained his mission. The sales team at Prestige Motors watched in stunned silence, their world turned upside down by this unexpected development. "He says he's looking for a very specific car," Lily translated, turning to Matthew with a calm confidence that belied her appearance. "A 1965 Shelby Cobra in turquoise blue. It has significant sentimental value to his family." Matthew's shock quickly transformed into calculation. He stepped forward, his smile returning as he gestured for Parker to take notes. "Please tell Mr. Khoury that we would be honored to help him find this special vehicle," Matthew said, his tone honeyed with renewed enthusiasm. "Ask if he has any photographs or specific details about the car." Lily relayed the question, and Ibrahim nodded, removing an envelope from his jacket. Inside was a faded photograph showing a young couple standing beside a gleaming turquoise Shelby Cobra. The woman in the photo wore a radiant smile, her beauty transcending the decades-old image. "This was his mother's car," Lily explained after listening to Ibrahim's emotional description. She and his father drove it during their early years in America, before returning to Lebanon. His mother is now elderly and ill. He wants to surprise her with the exact same model as a gift, a piece of her happiest memories. Parker whispered to Matthew, "A 65 Shelby in that color, that's extremely rare. We don't have anything like that in our inventory." Matthew's face tightened momentarily before he regained his composure. "Tell Mr. Khoury that while we don't currently have this model in our showroom, we specialize in locating rare vehicles for our distinguished clients. We can certainly begin a worldwide search immediately." As Lily translated, Ibrahim's expression turned skeptical. He responded with a question which Lily conveyed. "He wants to know how long that would take. His mother's health is declining, and he has only 2 weeks in the United States before he must return to Lebanon." Matthew's forced smile faltered. "Well, a search of this magnitude could take months. These cars are extremely rare, especially in that specific color. But we could perhaps find something similar." Ibrahim shook his head firmly as Lily translated, his disappointment evident. He glanced at his watch and said something to his security team. "He says thank you for your time, but he'll continue his search elsewhere," Lily explained. "He's been to 3 other dealerships already this morning with no success." Panic flashed across Matthew's face at the prospect of losing this client. He stepped forward, placing a hand on Lily's shoulder to steer her aside. "Miss, could you tell him to wait just a moment?" His fingers dug uncomfortably into her shoulder as he lowered his voice. "Listen, I don't know who you are or how you got in here, but this is a very important client. If you help us close this deal, there's something in it for you. A finder's fee." Lily stiffened at his touch, gently but firmly removing his hand. "Mr. Khoury isn't looking for just any luxury vehicle. He's searching for a specific car with emotional significance." Ibrahim, noticing the interaction, spoke directly to Lily. His tone was kind but curious. "He's asking how I learned to speak Lebanese Arabic," Lily explained to Matthew, before turning back to Ibrahim. She explained in his language about her university studies, her Lebanese professor, and her immersion in the culture before life circumstances derailed her education. Ibrahim listened intently, his eyes softening with understanding and respect. When she finished, he asked another question that made her smile. "He wants to know if I would be willing to act as his interpreter during his stay in Los Angeles. He says he would compensate me generously." Before Lily could respond, Matthew interjected, "That's a wonderful idea, but perhaps our dealership could provide a more professional translation service. We work with several agencies that—" Ibrahim cut him off with a firm statement, which Lily translated with a hint of satisfaction. "He says he prefers to work with me. He values authenticity over Polish." Matthew's face flushed with barely contained frustration. "Well, at least allow us to continue discussing options for finding his special car. Perhaps she could translate while we all sit down in my office." Lily relayed the suggestion, but Ibrahim shook his head. He spoke directly to her again, his expression thoughtful. He's asking if I know of any places that might restore or collect vintage cars like the one he's seeking, Lily said. Places that wouldn't be on the typical luxury circuit. A memory stirred in Lily's mind. During her first months on the streets, she had found temporary shelter in a neighborhood east of downtown Los Angeles. There, she had befriended an elderly mechanic named Joe Sullivan, who operated a modest restoration shop specializing in American classics. Joe had shown her his projects, including a Shelby Cobra he was painstakingly bringing back to life. She hadn't visited in over a year, but she remembered Joe's passion for these vintage automobiles. Actually, Lily said slowly, I might know a place. Ibrahim's face brightened with hope as she explained about Sullivan's classic restorations. He turned to his security team, speaking rapidly, then back to Lily. He wants to go there immediately. He's asking if I would guide them. Matthew stepped between them, his professional demeanor cracking. Now wait just a minute. This is highly irregular. Mr. Curie is our client, and Prestige Motors has partnerships with reputable collectors and restorers. We can't have him being led to some unknown garage by someone like me, Lily finished, meeting his gaze steadily. Ibrahim, sensing the tension, spoke firmly. To Matthew, despite the language barrier. His tone needed no translation. He was not pleased with how Lily was being treated. Matthew backpedaled quickly. I'm simply concerned about providing Mr. Curie with the quality of service he deserves. Perhaps I should accompany you both to this establishment to ensure everything is handled professionally. Lily translated for Ibrahim, who considered the suggestion before nodding his agreement. He spoke again, gesturing toward Lily. He says I'll ride with him and his team. You can follow in your car, Lily translated, unable to completely hide her satisfaction at Matthew's obvious discomfort. 20 minutes later, Ibrahim's limousine was traveling east through Los Angeles, leaving behind the manicured streets of Beverly Hills for increasingly working-class neighborhoods. Matthew followed in his sleek Porsche, his knuckles white on the steering wheel as he spoke rapidly into his Bluetooth earpiece. Inside the limousine's luxurious interior, Lily felt acutely aware of her worn clothing and unwashed hair. Yet Ibrahim treated her with nothing but respect, asking about her studies, her knowledge of Lebanese culture, and her current circumstances with genuine interest rather than pity. When he inquired about how she had ended up on the streets, Lily hesitated before sharing a simplified version of her story. The scholarship that disappeared after budget cuts, the mounting student loans, the medical bills after her appendix ruptured without insurance, and finally, the eviction that left her homeless. Ibrahim listened intently, occasionally nodding with understanding. When she finished, he spoke thoughtfully. He says that in his experience, it's often the most unexpected people who become the most important in our lives, Lily translated, touched by his words. He believes our meeting today was not chance, but fate. As they drove, Ibrahim shared more about his mother, Nadine. She had come to America as a young bride in the early 1960s, when Ibrahim's father was completing his medical residency in Los Angeles. They had purchased the turquoise Shelby Cobra, a car they could barely afford, and spent weekends driving up the California coast, falling in love with both the country and each other more deeply. When they returned to Lebanon years later, they had to leave the car behind. Now, with his mother's health failing, Ibrahim wanted to reunite her with the symbol of those joyful years. The car represents more than just a vehicle to her, Lily translated, as Ibrahim's eyes grew misty. It represents freedom, youth, and the purest love she's ever known. The limousine slowed as they entered an industrial area, lined with auto shops and small manufacturing businesses. They pulled up in front of a modest building with a faded sign reading, Sullivan's Classic Restorations. Matthew parked behind them, emerging from his Porsche with an expression of barely disguised disdain. "This is it?" he asked incredulously. "This is where you're bringing a VIP client?" Lily ignored him, leading Ibrahim and his security team toward the entrance. As they approached, a young man in his early 30s emerged from the garage, wiping his hands on a rag. Dressed in worn jeans and a t-shirt smudged with grease, he looked surprised at the unusual procession heading toward him. "Can I help you?" "Folks," he asked, his eyes moving from the limousine to Ibrahim's formal attire to Lily's disheveled appearance with equal confusion. "Ryan," Lily said, recognizing Joe's grandson whom she'd met during her time in the neighborhood. "It's Lily. I used to visit your grandfather's shop sometimes. Is Joe around?" Recognition dawned on Ryan's face. "Lily. Wow, it's been a while. Grandpa Joe." His expression faltered. "He passed away last winter. I've been trying to keep the place going, but it's been tough." Lily's heart sank at the news of Joe's passing. She had genuinely liked the kind-hearted mechanic who had often offered her coffee and conversation when she had nowhere else to go. A heavy silence hung in the air after Ryan's announcement about his grandfather. Lily felt a pang of grief for the kind old mechanic who had shown her such compassion during her darkest days. Ibrahim, sensing the emotional shift, placed a gentle hand on Lily's shoulder in silent support. "I'm so sorry to hear about Joe," Lily said sincerely. "He was a wonderful person." Ryan nodded, his eyes briefly downcast before he straightened his shoulders. "Thank you, he really was. Now what brings you all here today? Not exactly our usual clientele." His gaze shifted curiously between Ibrahim in his traditional Lebanese attire and Matthew in his $1,000 suit, clearly trying to make sense of the unlikely group. Lily quickly explained their mission, describing the turquoise 1965 Shelby Cobra that Ibrahim was seeking for his mother. As she spoke, Ryan's expression changed from polite interest to surprised recognition. "Wait, a 65 Shelby in turquoise blue?" Ryan wiped his hands more thoroughly on his rag. "You should come inside. There's something you need to see." Matthew stepped forward, interjecting, with barely concealed condescension, "Perhaps we should discuss credentials first. What experience do you have with high-value vintage automobiles? Do you have proper insurance and security for such vehicles?" Ryan assessed Matthew coolly. "I learned from the best. My grandfather restored classics for 40 years. As for credentials, our work speaks for itself. You're welcome to wait in your car if you're uncomfortable." Before Matthew could retort, Ibrahim spoke directly to Ryan. Though the words were unintelligible to the young mechanic, Ibrahim's respectful tone and genuine interest were unmistakable. "Mr. Curie would like to see your workshop," Lily translated. "He appreciates craftsmanship and family businesses." Ryan nodded and led them through the front office, a modest space with faded photographs of restored cars lining the walls, and into the main workshop. The contrast with Prestige Motors couldn't have been more stark. Instead of gleaming marble and recessed lighting, the shop floor was concrete, the space illuminated by fluorescent fixtures and natural light from high windows. Yet there was an authenticity here that the luxury dealership lacked. The smell of motor oil and leather conditioner, the organized chaos of tools and parts, the visible evidence of passionate work. Several vehicles in various stages of restoration occupied the space. A 1957 Thunderbird with its hood open revealed a partially rebuilt engine. A 1970 Mustang Mach-1 stood on a lift, its undercarriage exposed. In one corner, an early Corvette was receiving a meticulous paint job. Ryan led them past these projects, toward a door at the rear of the workshop. Grandpa had a special room for his personal projects and most valuable restorations, he explained, unlocking the door. "The cars back here aren't officially for sale, but given the circumstances..." He flipped a switch, illuminating a smaller, climate-controlled space. 4 vehicles sat under protective covers, their shapes suggesting the treasures beneath. Ryan walked to the third car and paused, his hand on the edge of the cover. This was one of Grandpa's passion projects. He worked on it for nearly 2 years. With a smooth motion, he pulled back the cover to reveal a 1965 Shelby Cobra in perfect condition, its turquoise blue paint gleaming under the lights. Ibrahim gasped, the sound transcending any language. "Barrier!" He stepped forward slowly as if approaching a mirage that might vanish. His hand trembled slightly as he touched the fender, his eyes wide with wonder and disbelief. He spoke rapidly to Lily, emotion making his words tumble over each other. "He says it's exactly like the one in the photograph," Lily translated, her own voice filled with awe at the coincidence. "He's asking how this is possible." Even Matthew was momentarily struck speechless by the serendipity, his business calculations temporarily forgotten as he stared at the magnificent vehicle. Ryan smiled, pleased by their reaction. Grandpa received this car about 3 years ago. It was in rough shape, had been sitting in a garage in Pasadena for decades. The owner had passed away, and the family contracted Grandpa to restore it to its original glory. They paid in advance, but then he hesitated. "What happened?" Lily prompted. The contact person stopped responding. Grandpa tried reaching out multiple times, but it was like they disappeared. He decided to complete the restoration anyway, figuring they'd eventually return for it. He loved this model, said it had soul. Ibrahim circled the car slowly, drinking in every detail. The chrome wire wheels, the iconic Cobra emblem, the period-correct interior with its wood-rimmed steering. Wheel and classic gauges, everything was perfect. He opened the driver's door and sat behind the wheel, his hands caressing the steering wheel with reverence. He spoke again, his voice thick with emotion. "He's asking if there's any paperwork about who commissioned the restoration," Lily translated. "He has a theory, but it seems almost impossible." Ryan nodded, intrigued. "Let me check Grandpa's files. He kept meticulous records." While Ryan disappeared into the small office at the back of the special collection room, Ibrahim continued examining the car, opening the glove compartment and looking under the seats as if searching for something specific. Matthew, recovering his composure, moved closer to Lily. "This is quite the coincidence," he murmured. "If this sale happens, I expect Prestige Motors to be appropriately compensated for facilitating this connection." Lily gave him a look of disbelief. "You didn't facilitate anything. I brought him here despite your objections." "I'm still Mr. Curie's primary contact for automotive needs," Matthew insisted. "And technically you were operating as our translator when you suggested this place." Before Lily could respond, Ibrahim called out excitedly from the car. He was holding a small, tarnished key fob that he'd discovered tucked into a hidden compartment beneath the driver's seat. On it was a delicate charm, a cedar tree, the symbol of Lebanon. His hands were shaking as he showed it to Lily, speaking rapidly. "He says this was his mother's keychain," she translated, amazed. "His father had it specially made for her when they bought the car. This isn't just the same model. He believes this might actually be their original car." The possibility hung in the air like electricity. How could the very car that Ibrahim's parents had owned decades ago find its way back into their lives at this crucial moment? Ryan returned with a worn leather folder. "I found the file," he announced, opening it on the hood of a nearby car. The restoration was commissioned by someone named Nadine Khoury. The initial correspondence came from Beirut, Lebanon. Ibrahim's face transformed with shock and then profound emotion. He spoke a single word that needed no translation. "Mama." "Lily," explained to Ryan. "Nadine Khoury is Ibrahim's mother. Somehow she found their original car and arranged for its restoration without telling her son." Ryan flipped through the paperwork, nodding. "According to these notes, she first contacted Grandpa about 5 years ago. She explained that the car had sentimental value and provided the VIN number and last known location. Grandpa spent months tracking it down through previous owners. Once he found it, she paid for the purchase and full restoration up front." He pulled out a letter written in elegant handwriting on fine stationery. Grandpa kept her letters. This one explains why she wanted it restored. Ibrahim took the letter with trembling hands. It was written in Arabic, and as he read, tears filled his eyes. He passed it to Lily, asking her to translate for the others. Lily cleared her throat and began to read. "Dear Mr. Sullivan, thank you for finding our beloved car. As I face the sunset of my life, my thoughts turn increasingly to those golden days in California with my husband. I know that someday my son Ibrahim will search for pieces of his parents' history. When that day comes, this car should be waiting. For him, a testament to love that crosses oceans and decades. Please restore it to its original beauty. When Ibrahim finds you, and I know in my heart he will, please tell him that some treasures are never truly lost, only waiting to be rediscovered. With deepest gratitude, Nadine Khoury." Silence fell over the room as the words settled around them. Ibrahim stood motionless beside the car, one hand still resting on its fender, tears streaming freely down his face. The coincidence was too perfect, too poetic to be mere chance. It felt like fate, or perhaps a mother's profound understanding of her son's heart. Even Matthew appeared moved, his calculating expression softened by the undeniable emotion of the moment. Ryan wiped at his eyes with the back of his hand, his grief for his grandfather momentarily transformed by the knowledge that Joe had been part of such a meaningful story. Ibrahim finally composed himself enough to speak. Through Lily, he expressed his astonishment at his mother's foresight and the incredible journey that had led him to this moment. Nadine had never mentioned finding the car or commissioning its restoration. Perhaps she had intended it as a surprise for herself, a chance to relive those happy days before illness confined her to home. Or perhaps, with a mother's intuition, she had known that someday Ibrahim would seek out this symbol of his parents' love story. "The restoration is complete," Ryan explained, running his hand along the car's perfect finish. "Grandpa finished it about a year ago, just before he became ill. He tried again to contact Mrs. Curie, but received no response. I've been trying to decide what to do with it since inheriting the shop." Ibrahim spoke again, his composure returning though his eyes remained bright with emotion. "He wants to know what he owes you for the car," Lily translated. "He says money is no object. This is beyond price to him." Ryan shook his head. "Your mother already paid for everything, the purchase, parts, labor, all of it. The car is rightfully yours. Grandpa would have wanted you to have it, especially knowing the full story." Ibrahim insisted, speaking emphatically while gesturing around. "The workshop. He says he can see you're struggling to keep the business going," Lily explained. "He wants to pay you additionally for storing and maintaining the car all this time, and he'd like to make a donation to honor your grandfather's memory and craftsmanship." Matthew, sensing a business opportunity slipping away, stepped forward. "Perhaps Prestige Motors could assist with the export arrangements. We have extensive experience shipping luxury vehicles internationally." Ibrahim responded without waiting for Lily's translation, his tone making his disinterest clear. He turned back to Ryan, speaking through Lily. "He's asking if you'd be willing to help prepare the car for transport to Lebanon. He trusts your grandfather's work and would value your expertise." Ryan straightened, professional pride evident in his posture. "I'd be honored. We can handle everything. Shipping preparations, documentation, insurance. If you're planning to ship it soon, we should start the process right away." As Ryan and Ibrahim began discussing logistics, Matthew pulled Lily aside. "I hope you realize what you've done," he said, his voice low and tense. "You've cost Prestige Motors a significant commission on what would have been a major sale." Lily met his gaze steadily. This wasn't about a sale. It was about reuniting a son with a precious piece of his family's history. "Some things matter more than commissions, Mr. Thornton." Matthew's expression hardened. "Don't think this is over. You can't just walk into my dealership, hijack a client, and expect no consequences." Before Lily could respond, Ibrahim called her name, waving her over to the car. He was sitting in the driver's seat again, running his hands over the dashboard with reverence. "He wants to know if I'll come with him to see the car loaded onto the transport ship," Lily explained to Ryan. "After listening to Ibrahim's request, but he'd like me to continue as his interpreter for the remainder of his stay in Los Angeles." Ryan's workshop buzzed with activity in the days following the discovery of the Shelby Cobra. Ibrahim had insisted on making a generous payment to Ryan, despite the car already being paid for, explaining through Lily that he wanted to honor both Joe Sullivan's craftsmanship and Ryan's dedication to preserving his grandfather's legacy. The amount, substantial enough to clear Ryan's debts and secure the workshop's future for at least a year, had left the young mechanic speechless with gratitude. For Lily, the world had shifted dramatically. Ibrahim had made good on his offer, hiring her as his personal interpreter for his remaining time in Los Angeles. He'd arranged for her to stay in his hotel's adjoining suite, provided new clothes, and insisted she accept a salary that made her previous university stipend seem paltry in comparison. After months of uncertainty and survival on the streets, the sudden stability felt almost dreamlike. On her third morning in the hotel, Lily stood on her suite's balcony, watching the sunrise paint the Los Angeles skyline in gold and pink. She had showered, dressed in new clothes, and eaten a proper breakfast. Simple actions that had once been routine, but now felt like luxuries. Her reflection in the glass balcony door showed a woman beginning to reclaim herself from the hardships that had nearly erased her. A gentle knock at the door interrupted her thoughts. Ibrahim stood there, already dressed impeccably in a Western-style suit for their meeting at the shipping company. "Good morning," he said in Arabic, his eyes kind. "Did you sleep well?" "Very well, thank you," Lily replied in his language. Their conversation continued in Arabic as they made their way to the waiting car, discussing the day's agenda. Ibrahim had a full schedule, finalizing paperwork for shipping the Cobra to Lebanon, meeting with his business associates in Los Angeles, and visiting several cultural sites he'd always wanted to see. Lily would accompany him throughout, bridging the language gap and helping navigate cultural nuances. As they settled into the limousine, Ibrahim handed Lily a slim folder. "Before we begin today's activities, I have a proposal for you," he said, his expression serious but warm. "Please take your time reviewing it." Inside the folder, Lily found an employment contract offering her a position as Ibrahim's international liaison and cultural consultant for his family's business interests. The role would include extensive travel, competitive compensation, and, most surprisingly, funding to complete her linguistics degree. "I don't understand," Lily said, genuinely stunned by the offer. "Why would you do this for me?" Ibrahim smiled, the corners of his eyes crinkling. "In my culture, we believe that when Allah places someone in your path, it is never without purpose. You helped me find a treasure beyond price. More importantly, you treated me with dignity when others saw only a transaction. Your linguistic talents are exceptional, but it is your character that makes you valuable." Tears threatened at the edges of Lily's vision. After years of struggling, of feeling invisible and worthless, someone had recognized her value, not just as a translator, but as a person. "I don't know what to say," she managed finally. "Say nothing now," Ibrahim replied gently. "Consider the offer. We can discuss it after our meetings today." Their first stop was Ryan's workshop, where the Cobra was being prepared for transport. The car had been carefully detailed and was now being secured in a custom shipping container under Ryan's meticulous supervision. Ibrahim watched the process with the attention of a man witnessing the handling of a priceless artifact, which, in many ways, it was. "When will you tell your mother about finding the car?" Lily asked as they observed the work. Ibrahim's expression softened. "I spoke with her last night. I told her I had a surprise but gave no details. Her health has been declining, but my sister says the prospect of a surprise from America has given her new energy." He paused, emotion briefly overtaking him. "This car represents the happiest period of my parents' lives, before politics and war changed our country, before my father's passing, before age began taking its toll on my mother. To return this symbol to her." He didn't need to finish the thought. Lily understood the profound significance of their mission. As Ryan secured the last restraints around the vehicle, the workshop door opened unexpectedly. Matthew Thornton strode in, his expression a mask of professional courtesy that didn't reach his eyes. "Mr. Khoury," he called out with forced joviality, "I'm so glad I caught you. There are some important considerations about shipping such a valuable vehicle that I wanted to discuss." Ibrahim tensed slightly, but nodded politely, waiting for Lily to translate. Matthew continued, "Prestige Motors has exclusive arrangements with international shipping specialists who handle only the most valuable automobiles. I've taken the liberty of preparing some documentation." He opened his leather portfolio and extracted several official-looking papers. "These outline our premium shipping service, which includes specialized insurance, climate control and security, monitoring throughout transit." After Lily's translation, Ibrahim responded with measured politeness. "Mr. Khoury appreciates your concern," Lily translated, "but he has already made arrangements with Sullivan's Restorations to handle the shipping. They have experience with vintage vehicles and understand the specific needs of this car." Matthew's smile tightened. "I'm sure Mr. Sullivan's shop is adequate for local restorations, but international shipping of a vehicle worth potentially millions requires expertise that only specialized firms possess. Perhaps there's been a miscommunication." Ryan stepped forward, wiping his hands on a cloth. There's no miscommunication. We've arranged everything through Classico International Transport. They specialize in vintage and classic cars and have shipped to the Middle East many times. The container has GPS tracking, climate control and full insurance coverage. Matthew's facade cracked slightly, revealing the frustration beneath. Mr. Khoury, with all due respect, you're receiving advice from a local mechanic and He glanced dismissively at Lily. Temporary interpreter. Prestige Motors has built relationships with collectors worldwide. We understand the complexities involved. Lily translated Matthew's words more diplomatically, but Ibrahim caught the condescending tone nonetheless. His response, when it came, was measured but firm. Mr. Khoury says he values authenticity over prestige, Lily translated, suppressing a small smile at the pointed word choice. He trusts Ryan to honor his grandfather's work and ensure the car arrives safely. He appreciates your concern but has made his decision. Color rose in Matthew's cheeks. He closed his portfolio with a snap. Very well, but when complications arise, and they will, please remember that Prestige Motors offered assistance. He handed Ibrahim his business card. Should you need our services in the future, for this or any other automotive matter. After a stiff farewell, Matthew departed, his rigid posture betraying his anger. Once the door closed behind him, Ryan let out a low whistle. That guy really doesn't like losing, does he? Ibrahim spoke, shaking his head with mild amusement. He says some people see relationships only as transactions, Lily translated. They calculate each interaction for profit and loss. Ryan nodded thoughtfully as he returned to his work. My grandfather always said how you treat people who can do nothing for you reveals your true character. The rest of the morning passed efficiently as the shipping details were finalized. The Cobra would travel by specialized transport to the port of Los Angeles, then by container ship to Lebanon, where Ibrahim's staff would handle the final delivery to his mother's estate outside Beirut. The entire process would take approximately 3 weeks. They prepared to leave for their next appointment. Ibrahim paused to speak with Ryan privately, with Lily translating. The conversation ended with Ryan looking surprised but pleased, shaking Ibrahim's hand vigorously. Back in the limousine, Lily's curiosity got the better of her. If you don't mind my asking, what did you discuss with Ryan? Ibrahim smiled. I offered him a business proposition. His grandfather's skill in restoration is rare, and his own commitment to quality is evident. I've proposed establishing a partnership, financial support for his workshop in exchange for his expertise in locating and restoring vintage vehicles for collectors in Lebanon and throughout the Middle East. Lily's eyebrows rose. That's incredibly generous. It's good business, Ibrahim corrected, gently. True craftsmanship deserves recognition and support. Too many skilled trades are disappearing in the rush for the new and flashy. He gazed out the window at the passing city. My father taught me that wealth brings responsibility, to preserve what is valuable, to support what is worthy, to recognize what others overlook. The words resonated deeply with Lily, who had experienced firsthand how quickly society could overlook a human being. Their next stop was a Lebanese cultural center in downtown Los Angeles, where Ibrahim had arranged to meet with community leaders. As they entered the modest building, Lily was struck by how at ease Ibrahim seemed here, away from the luxury and pretension of places like Prestige Motors. Though undeniably wealthy and influential, he carried himself with a humility that put others at ease. The center's director, an older woman named Yasmin Haddad, greeted them warmly in Arabic, her eyes widening in recognition when Ibrahim introduced himself. Clearly the Khoury name carried weight in the Lebanese community. Mrs. Haddad led them on a tour of the facility, which included a small library, classrooms for language and cultural education, a community kitchen, and a multi-purpose room used for events. Throughout the tour, Ibrahim asked thoughtful questions about the center's programs, funding challenges, and community impact. Lily translated seamlessly, her academic knowledge of Lebanese culture, helping her capture nuances that a literal translation might miss. As they concluded the tour in Mrs. Haddad's modest office, Ibrahim asked a question that caught both women by surprise. What is your most urgent need? If you could address one challenge immediately, what would it be? Mrs. Haddad didn't hesitate. Space. We've outgrown this building. Our youth programs have waiting lists, our cultural events are overcrowded, and we've had to turn away elderly community members seeking connection because our senior programs are at capacity. Ibrahim nodded thoughtfully, making notes in a small leather-bound notebook. He asked several follow-up questions about property values in the area, zoning regulations, and the center's long-term vision. As they prepared to leave, Ibrahim surprised Mrs. Haddad with a substantial personal donation and a promise to explore ways his family's foundation might support the center's expansion. The elderly woman's eyes filled with tears as she grasped his hands in gratitude. Outside, as they walked back to the waiting car, Lily observed, "You seem to have a pattern of surprising people with generosity." Ibrahim smiled at Lily's observation about his generosity as they settled back into the limousine. "My father had a saying, 'Wealth is like seawater. The more you drink, the thirstier you become, but pour it on parched land and flowers grow.'" The next 10 days passed in a whirlwind of activity. Ibrahim's business in Los Angeles expanded beyond his original mission to find the Shelby Cobra. With Lily by his side interpreting, he met with business associates, visited cultural institutions, and continued exploring potential support for the Lebanese Cultural Center. Ryan became a regular part of their meetings, his knowledge of vintage automobiles proving valuable as Ibrahim considered establishing an import business for classic cars. For Lily, the experience was transformative. She moved through spaces she had once only observed from the outside: luxury hotels, exclusive restaurants, corporate offices. Each day brought new challenges that tested her linguistic abilities and cultural knowledge. Yet more profound than the material change in her circumstances was the restoration of her dignity. People looked at her, listened to her, valued her contributions. After months of invisibility on the streets, being seen again felt like waking from a long, dark dream. On the morning of their 11th day together, Ibrahim invited both Lily and Ryan to breakfast in his hotel suite. As they enjoyed coffee and Lebanese pastries that Ibrahim had specially ordered, he shared news that would change the trajectory of their relationship. "I must return to Lebanon sooner than planned," he explained, his expression somber. "My mother's condition has worsened, and my sister feels I should not delay my return." Lily translated for Ryan, her heart sinking at the thought of Ibrahim's departure. In less than 2 weeks, he had become not just an employer, but a mentor and friend. "I'll be leaving tomorrow evening," Ibrahim continued, "but our work together is far from finished." He turned to Ryan first. "The shipping arrangements for the Cobra are complete, but I would like you to personally oversee the car's arrival in Lebanon. Would you be willing to travel there in 3 weeks' time when the shipment is due to arrive?" Ryan's eyes widened. "Me? Go to Lebanon?" After Lily's translation, Ibrahim nodded. "Your expertise would ensure the car arrives in perfect condition. Additionally, I would like to discuss the partnership we've mentioned, establishing connections between your restoration business and collectors in my country. This would be an opportunity to meet potential clients and see the market firsthand." Ryan's surprise gave way to excitement. "I've never been outside the US, but yes, absolutely yes." Ibrahim smiled, pleased, then turned to Lily. "And you, Lily, the position I offered remains open. In fact, after these days working together, I am even more convinced of your value to my family's enterprises. Would you consider returning to Lebanon with me tomorrow?" The question hung in the air, momentous in its implications. Lily had expected their arrangement to end with Ibrahim's departure. The prospect of leaving for Lebanon immediately, of completely transforming her life overnight, was both thrilling and terrifying. I don't even have a passport," she admitted. "And my things—" Ibrahim waved away these concerns. "The passport can be expedited with the right connections. As for your belongings—" He paused delicately. Lily understood his hesitation. After months on the streets, she had few possessions beyond what she now wore. "There's not much," she acknowledged. Just a backpack I left at a shelter storage program. Some books, photos, documents. Then it's settled, Ibrahim said decisively. We'll retrieve your items today and begin the passport process immediately. My assistant has already prepared the necessary paperwork. It only awaits your signature. The momentum of events left little room for doubt. By that afternoon, Lily had retrieved her backpack from the shelter storage, applied for an emergency passport with the help of Ibrahim's connections, and begun mental preparations for a journey she could never have imagined 2 weeks earlier. As evening approached, Ibrahim announced he had one more appointment, a final visit to the Lebanese Cultural Center to discuss potential support from his family's foundation. Lily accompanied him, her mind still reeling from the day's developments. At the center, Mrs. Haddad greeted them with excited news. She had found a potential property for expansion, an abandoned community center 2 blocks away. The building needed significant renovation, but offered twice the space at a price within reach if they could secure additional funding. Ibrahim listened intently as Mrs. Haddad outlined her vision for the expanded center. More classrooms for language and cultural education, a proper performance space for traditional music and dance, an authentic Lebanese cafe to generate revenue, and dedicated areas for youth and senior programs. Would it be possible to see this property? Ibrahim asked. 20 minutes later, they stood inside a dusty, high-ceiling space that had once served as the main hall of a community center. Though neglected, the building's bones were sound. Large windows, solid construction, a central location in the neighborhood. As Ibrahim walked through the space, asking questions about structural elements and renovation costs, Lily noticed his expression growing increasingly thoughtful. He paused by a large window, gazing out at the diverse neighborhood where Lebanese families lived, alongside people from dozens of other backgrounds. This community reminds me of Beirut before the Troubles, he said quietly to Lily. Many cultures sharing streets, food, music, life. My mother often speaks of those days with nostalgia. He turned back to Mrs. Haddad, who was anxiously awaiting his impression. This building has potential, but renovation will cost far more than your estimates. Bringing it to proper standards while preserving its character would require significant investment. Mrs. Haddad's face fell slightly, but she nodded with resignation. We feared as much. Perhaps we should focus on a more modest expansion. Ibrahim shook his head. I didn't say it wasn't possible. He walked the perimeter of the room once more, his footsteps echoing in the empty space. I believe this could become something special. Not just a larger version of your current center, but a true bridge between cultures. Mrs. Haddad's eyes widened as she understood the implication. Mr. Khoury, are you suggesting Zosti Saiti? My family's foundation would consider funding the complete renovation, Ibrahim confirmed. But I envision something more ambitious than what you've outlined. Not just a Lebanese cultural center, but an intercultural exchange that celebrates the connections between Lebanon and America. As Lily translated this vision, she felt a spark of excitement. The concept resonated deeply with her own journey as a linguistics student, fascinated by how language and culture intertwined to shape human connection. What exactly are you proposing? Mrs. Haddad asked, barely containing her excitement. A center that would include all the elements you've described, but expanded to emphasize exchange rather than preservation alone. Bilingual education for all ages. Culinary programs that explore how Lebanese cuisine has influenced and been influenced by American food traditions. Business incubation for immigrants and cultural entrepreneurs. A place that honors heritage, while building future connections. Mrs. Haddad clasped her hands together. That's a beautiful vision, but far beyond what we've imagined being able to create. Sometimes we need others to help us see possibilities beyond our immediate circumstances, Ibrahim said, his gaze briefly meeting Lily's. I will have my foundation representatives contact you tomorrow to begin discussions. If we proceed, I would want the project to begin immediately. As they prepared to leave, Ibrahim made a request that surprised both women. I would like the center to include a special display, the story of a turquoise Shelby cobra that connected 2 countries and 3 generations. A reminder that objects like people can bridge worlds when given the chance. On the ride back to the hotel, Ibrahim was unusually quiet, gazing out at the passing cityscape with a pensive expression. Finally, he spoke. "Lily, I have been thinking about our arrangement. While I still hope you'll consider the position with my family's businesses, I believe your talents might be even better utilized here." Confused, Lily asked him to elaborate. "The Cultural Center project will need someone who understands both Lebanese and American perspectives, someone who can truly translate not just words, but concepts and values between cultures. Would you consider overseeing the project on behalf of my foundation? The position would include completing your education and establishing the center as a model for similar initiatives elsewhere." The offer left Lily momentarily speechless. From homeless to project director in less than 2 weeks, the trajectory seemed impossible, unbelievable. "I don't have experience managing projects of this scale," she protested. "I'm not sure I'm qualified." Ibrahim smiled gently. "Qualifications can be learned. Character and vision are innate. You possess both in abundance." He held up a hand as she began to object further. "Consider it carefully. We can discuss details tomorrow before my departure." Back at the hotel, Lily retreated to her suite, her mind swirling with possibilities. As she sorted through the meager contents of her retrieved backpack, a few books, important documents, photos of her family, the contrast between her recent past and potential future seemed surreal. A knock at her door interrupted her reflections. Expecting Ibrahim or perhaps hotel staff, she was stunned to find Matthew Thornton standing in the hallway, his expression a carefully composed mask of professional courtesy. "Ms. Moore," he said smoothly, "I hope I'm not interrupting. Might I have a moment of your time?" Wary but curious, Lily allowed him into the sitting area of her suite. Matthew declined her offer of water or coffee, getting straight to the point. "I understand Mr. Khoury is returning to Lebanon tomorrow," he began, watching her carefully. "Which means your temporary arrangement will be concluding." "Actually," Lily started, but Matthew continued as if she hadn't spoken. "I've come to offer you an opportunity. Prestige Motors is considering expanding our client services to include cultural liaison positions for our international clientele. Your performance with Mr. Khoury, while unorthodox in its beginnings, demonstrated a valuable skill set." Lily stared at him, hardly believing what she was hearing. "You're offering me a job, after the way you treated me?" Matthew's smile didn't waver. "Business is business. You impressed a valuable client, which suggests you might impress others. The position would include competitive compensation and, of course, appropriate attire and accommodations befitting Prestige Motors' standards." The implication was clear. They would make her presentable, package her skills in a way that matched their luxury brand. Lily felt a flicker of anger. "Why would you think I'd consider working for you after the way you dismissed me?" Matthew leaned forward slightly. "Because you're practical. Your current good fortune with Mr. Khoury is temporary. Our offer represents stability. Additionally," he paused meaningfully, "we understand Mr. Khoury has proposed some sort of cultural center project in that unfortunate neighborhood. Should you decline our offer, we would be concerned about the viability of such a project." The threat, though veiled, was unmistakable. "Are you saying you would interfere with the cultural center if I don't accept your job offer?" Matthew spread his hands innocently. "Not at all. I'm simply noting that zoning regulations and building permits can be complex in Los Angeles. Our dealership has many connections in city government, connections that can either facilitate or complicate such projects." Lily stood very still, processing Matthew's thinly veiled threat. A complex mix of emotions, anger, disbelief, and an odd sense of validation, swirled within her. 2 weeks ago, she had been invisible to men like Matthew Thornton. Now he considered her important enough to attempt manipulation. "Let me make sure I understand you correctly," she said, her voice steadier than she felt. "You're offering me a job while simultaneously threatening to sabotage a community project if I refuse." Matthew adjusted his tie, looking mildly uncomfortable for the first time. "I wouldn't characterize it that way. I'm simply outlining the practical realities of business in Los Angeles. Mutually beneficial relationships tend to smooth pathways. It's how the world works. Perhaps in your world, Lily replied. She walked to the door and opened it. I'll need to decline your offer, Mr. Thornton, and I'd appreciate it if you would leave now. Matthew didn't move immediately. You should consider your position carefully, Ms. Moore. Your current circumstances are precarious at best. Mr. Corey's interest, while flattering, is likely temporary. Men of his stature make grandiose gestures abroad, but rarely follow through once they return home. Lily held the door firmly. That's a risk I'm willing to take. Goodbye, Mr. Thornton. After a moment of tension, Matthew rose and walked to the door. He paused in the doorway. My offer remains open until tomorrow morning. Sometimes practicality must outweigh pride. With that, he departed, leaving Lily trembling with a mixture of indignation and uncertainty. She closed the door and leaned against it, taking deep breaths to calm herself. Should she tell Ibrahim about Matthew's visit? The threat seemed both petty and potentially serious. Matthew clearly had wounded pride, but did he actually have the connections to interfere with? The Cultural Center project? Before she could decide, her phone rang, a new device Ibrahim had provided for their work together. It was Ryan. Lily? Something weird just happened, he said, his voice concerned. Matthew Thornton showed up at my shop about an hour ago. Lily's stomach tightened. What did he want? He offered to partner with me, said Prestige Motors was looking to expand into classics and vintage restorations, and my shop would be perfect. He offered a substantial investment and exclusive client referrals. In exchange for what? Lily asked, though she suspected the answer. He wasn't entirely clear, but he kept emphasizing that I should reconsider my hasty arrangement with Mr. Corey. He suggested that international business deals often fall through and that a local partnership would be more stable. Ryan paused. It felt off, like he was trying to pull me away from Mr. Corey's project. He came to see me too, Lily admitted, explaining Matthew's job offer and veiled threats about the cultural center. That guy doesn't give up, Ryan said, sounding both impressed and disturbed by Matthew's persistence. What are you going to do? I'm not sure yet, Lily replied, but I think Ibrahim should know about this before he leaves tomorrow. What about you? Were you tempted by Matthew's offer? Ryan snorted. Not for a second. Grandpa Joe always said, you can tell a lot about a person by how they treat people they think can't help them. Matthew showed his character pretty clearly that first day in my shop. Besides, his voice softened slightly, this opportunity with Mr. Corey isn't just about business. It feels like continuing Grandpa's legacy in a way he'd be proud of. After ending the call, Lily decided she needed to clear her head. She left her suite and took the elevator to the hotel's rooftop garden, a quiet space with panoramic views of Los Angeles. As the sun began to set, casting the city in hues of gold and pink, she tried to make sense of the whirlwind her life had become. 2 weeks ago, she had been sitting on a bench outside Prestige Motors, an invisible observer of a world beyond her reach. Now she stood at a crossroads with options that seemed pulled from a dream: travel to Lebanon with Ibrahim, oversee an ambitious cultural center, rebuild her education and career. The speed of the transformation left her dizzy. Was Matthew right about one thing? Was Ibrahim's interest temporary, a wealthy man's passing philanthropic impulse that would fade once he returned home? The Cultural Center project seemed sincere, but Lily had learned hard lessons about disappearing opportunities. Lost in thought, she didn't notice Ibrahim approaching until he spoke. The city looks different from up here, doesn't it? He said. He in Arabic, moving to stand beside her at the railing. Distance changes perspective. Everything looks different lately, Lily replied in the same language, her gaze still on the sprawling cityscape. Sometimes I wonder if I'm seeing clearly at all. Ibrahim was quiet for a moment, respecting her contemplative mood. Finally he asked, Have you considered my proposal about the cultural center? Lily turned to face him. Matthew Thornton came to see me this evening. He offered me a job at Prestige Motors and implied he could create problems for the cultural center project if I declined. Ibrahim's expression darkened briefly before settling into something calmer, more calculated. I see. Did he make similar overtures to Ryan? Yes. How did you know? Men like Matthew are predictable in their methods, Ibrahim replied. When direct confrontation fails, they attempt to separate potential allies, to create doubt and division. He shook his head slightly. I have encountered such tactics many times in business. He suggested that your interest in the cultural center and in helping me might be temporary, that once you return to Lebanon, these plans might fade. Lily hated giving voice to these doubts, but transparency felt necessary. Rather than appearing offended, Ibrahim nodded thoughtfully. A reasonable concern. Words and promises are easily spoken, especially by wealthy visitors making grand gestures abroad. He turned to face the city again. My mother taught me that trust must be built on actions, not declarations. Perhaps I have asked for your trust too quickly, without sufficient foundation. He reached into his jacket and removed an envelope, handing it to Lily. These may help address your concerns. Inside, Lily found legal documents, formal notarized papers, establishing a significant trust for the Cultural Center project, with her name listed as project director. The funding was already secured, the legal framework established. This wasn't a vague promise, but a binding commitment. You prepared these before our conversation this morning, Lily realized, noting the previous day's date on the documents. Ibrahim nodded. I believe in preparation. Whether you choose to accept the position or not, the Cultural Center project will proceed. Your doubts about my commitment are natural, but perhaps these will alleviate them somewhat. Lily felt a wave of shame for having questioned his sincerity, quickly followed by a deeper appreciation for his understanding. I'm sorry for doubting you. Never apologize for protecting yourself, Ibrahim replied gently. Life has taught you caution. That is wisdom, not weakness. He gestured to the documents. As for Mr. Thornton's threats regarding permits and zoning, my foundation has already engaged a highly respected law firm specializing in community development projects. They have preliminary approval from the relevant departments. Relief washed over Lily, followed by determination. Then I accept your offer. I want to direct the Cultural Center project. Ibrahim smiled, clearly pleased. Excellent. There is much work ahead, but I believe you are exactly the right person to bridge these communities. As they discussed next steps, Lily felt a new sense of purpose solidifying within her. This wasn't just a job opportunity, but a chance to create something meaningful, to use her linguistics background and personal experience to build connections between cultures. The following day passed in a flurry of activity. Ibrahim's imminent departure accelerated their timeline. Morning meetings with lawyers formalized Lily's position and responsibilities. Afternoon sessions with Mrs. Haddad and community stakeholders established preliminary plans for the Cultural Center. Ibrahim's foundation would provide initial funding, but the center would need to develop sustainability through grants, community support, and social enterprise elements like the Lebanese Cafe. By evening, they had assembled a core team. Lily as project director, Mrs. Haddad providing community connections and cultural expertise, Ryan contributing his restoration knowledge for a planned classic automobile display, and 2 foundation representatives who would provide ongoing support from Ibrahim's organization. As Ibrahim's departure time approached, he invited Lily and Ryan for a final meeting in his suite. The room had been transformed from living space back to anonymous luxury, his belongings packed for the journey home. Before I leave, there are several matters to finalize, Ibrahim began, his manner more formal than usual. First, Ryan, your travel arrangements to Lebanon are confirmed for 3 weeks from today. My staff will assist with visa requirements and accommodations. The Cobra will arrive 2 days after you, allowing time for you to acclimate before overseeing its delivery. Ryan nodded, his expression a mix of excitement and nervousness about his first international journey. Lily, Ibrahim continued, your position as project director begins officially tomorrow. The foundation has arranged temporary housing until You decide on permanent accommodations. Your salary has been established as discussed, with the first payment already transferred to your new account. He handed each of them business cards with contact information for his personal assistant and key foundation personnel. While I must return to Beirut immediately due to my mother's health, I plan to visit Los Angeles quarterly to monitor the Cultural Center's progress. Additionally, I hope you will both consider visiting Lebanon once the Cobra has safely arrived and my mother has had time to enjoy her surprise. The conversation shifted to more personal territory as Ibrahim shared stories about his homeland, creating a mental picture for Lily and Ryan of the place and people they would soon connect with through their work. Despite the formality of their business arrangements, a genuine friendship had formed between the three, an unlikely connection across cultural and socio-economic divides. As the evening concluded, Ibrahim presented each of them with a small gift for Ryan, a vintage compass that had belonged to Ibrahim's father. He used this when navigating California's coastal highways in the Cobra, Ibrahim explained. It seems fitting that it should accompany the car's journey home. For Lily, he had chosen a silver pendant featuring an intricate cedar tree design, the symbol of Lebanon. A reminder that you now stand as a bridge between two worlds, he said, as she admired the delicate craftsmanship. After Ryan departed to prepare for his coming journey, Lily remained briefly to discuss final details about the Cultural Center project. As their meeting concluded, she found herself reluctant to say goodbye to the man who had so completely transformed her life. "I don't know how to thank you adequately," she said finally. 2 weeks ago I was invisible, forgotten. Now, Ibrahim held up a hand to gently stop her. "You have earned this opportunity through your own abilities. I merely recognized what was already there." He paused, his expression growing more serious. "There will be challenges ahead. Mr. Thornton's opposition may be only the first. Creating something meaningful always faces resistance." "I'm ready," Lily assured him, surprising herself with her own confidence. As Ibrahim's limousine pulled away from the hotel later that evening, Lily stood watching until it disappeared into traffic. A strange sensation settled over her, not the abandonment she had feared, but a profound sense of responsibility. For the first time in years, her future stretched before her with purpose and promise. Her phone chimed with a message from Ryan. "Still can't believe any of this is happening. Coffee tomorrow to plan our next steps?" 1 year later. The Lebanese American Cultural Exchange Center stood transformed from the abandoned building Lily had first visited with Ibrahim. The renovated structure now featured a striking facade that blended architectural elements from both countries. Warm stone reminiscent of Beirut, alongside modern glass and steel that reflected the Los Angeles skyline. Above the entrance, the center's name appeared in both English and Arabic script, illuminated softly as twilight descended on the city. Inside, the final preparations for the grand opening gala were underway. The main hall, once dusty and neglected, now gleamed with polished wood floors and soaring ceilings from which delicate lanterns hung, casting intricate patterns of light across the space. Display cases showcased artifacts from both cultures, traditional Lebanese crafts, historical photographs, and contemporary artwork created by local artists from both communities. Lily stood in the center of the hall, clipboard in hand, overseeing the last-minute details. At 25, she carried herself with a confidence that had been hard-won through months of challenges, setbacks and ultimately triumphs. Her hair was styled elegantly, her dress professional yet stylish, but it was her presence rather than her appearance that commanded attention. Staff members and volunteers moved purposefully around her, responding to her quiet directions with respect and efficiency. "The caterers need final approval on the table arrangements," said Jessica, Lily's assistant coordinator. "And the sound technicians want to do one more check before the musicians arrive. Tell the caterers everything looks perfect, and let the technicians know they have 30 minutes before the Lebanese ensemble needs to set up," Lily replied, checking items off her list. "Has Ryan arrived with the display car?" "Just pulling up now," Jessica confirmed, glancing at her phone. "And Mrs. Haddad called to say she's bringing the guest book from the old center. She wants it displayed alongside the new one. Lily smiled at this thoughtful connection between past and present. The former cultural center, though modest, had served the community faithfully for decades. Tonight's gala would honor that legacy while celebrating the expanded vision. Outside, a truck was carefully unloading a gleaming vintage automobile onto a specially constructed display platform. Ryan Sullivan, recently returned from his third trip to Lebanon, directed the process with meticulous attention to detail. The turquoise Shelby Cobra, an exact replica of Ibrahim's mother's beloved car, would serve as the centerpiece of the Center's Classic Automobile Cultural Exchange Program, a unique initiative connecting car enthusiasts from both countries. The original Cobra had indeed made it safely to Lebanon, where it had brought profound joy to Nadine Khoury during her final months. After her peaceful passing 6 months ago, Ibrahim had commissioned this replica to serve as a permanent installation at the center, a symbol of the connections between cultures, generations, and personal histories. Ryan had expanded his restoration business dramatically over the past year, hiring 3 additional mechanics and establishing a thriving partnership with collectors in Lebanon and throughout the Middle East. His workshop now featured an apprenticeship program for disadvantaged youth interested in automotive restoration, an initiative partially funded by the Khoury Foundation. Perfect placement, Ryan called to the transport team as the Cobra settled onto its platform. He made his way to Lily, grinning as he surveyed the transformed space. Hard to believe this is the same building we stood in a year ago. Sometimes I still can't believe it myself, Lily admitted, returning his smile. Their friendship had deepened through the shared experience of the past year, weathering challenges and celebrating milestones together. Is everything set for your presentation tomorrow? Ryan nodded. All ready. I've got 10 local high school students signed up for the first automotive cultural exchange workshop. They'll be video conferencing with students from Ibrahim's community program in Beirut while working on identical vintage engine components. This innovative approach to cultural exchange, connecting young people through shared interests rather than abstract concepts, had become a hallmark of the center's programming. Similar initiatives included culinary exchanges, music collaborations, and business mentorship programs connecting entrepreneurs from both communities. Ibrahim just texted, Lily said, checking her phone. His flight landed early. He'll be here within the hour. The mention of Ibrahim brought a flash of anticipation. Though they had maintained regular contact through video calls and his quarterly visits, his presence at tonight's gala carried special significance. The cultural center represented their shared vision, brought to life against considerable odds. Those odds had included Matthew Thornton's persistent attempts to undermine the project during its early stages. True to his veiled threats, Matthew had leveraged his connections to challenge permits, raise questions about funding, and even spread rumors questioning Ibrahim's intentions in the community. But the solid legal groundwork Ibrahim had established, combined with growing community support, had ultimately prevailed. The confrontation had come to a head 6 months into the project, when Matthew attempted to block the center's liquor license for its Lebanese restaurant component, a potentially devastating blow to the financial sustainability plan. The ensuing investigation had unexpectedly revealed Matthew's involvement in questionable sales practices at Prestige Motors, leading to his demotion and eventual departure from the company. In a surprising turn of events, Prestige Motors' new management had subsequently reached out to the cultural center, seeking to repair the relationship through sponsorship of their annual classic car exhibition. The company's new director of community relations, a Lebanese-American woman named Sophia Nassar, had become an unexpected ally. Mrs. Haddad is here, Jessica announced, interrupting Lily's reflections, and the first board members are arriving. The next hour passed in a flurry of activity as early arrivals toured the facility. Local politicians, community leaders, and major donors mingled with residents from the surrounding neighborhood. The center's culinary program students served traditional Lebanese appetizers alongside California-inspired variations, while musicians set up in the performance area, Lily was speaking with the mayor when she felt a gentle tap on her shoulder. Turning, she found Ibrahim Khoury smiling warmly at her. Though they had spoken just days earlier by video, seeing him in person brought a rush of emotion. At 61, he carried himself with the same quiet dignity she had first observed outside. Prestige Motors, though the past year had added a few more silver strands to his beard. Ibrahim. Lily embraced him without hesitation, protocol forgotten in the joy of reunion. I didn't hear you arrive. I wanted to observe before announcing myself, he replied in Arabic, his eyes taking in the transformed space and the diverse gathering. I wanted to see your creation through fresh eyes. Our creation, Lily corrected gently in the same language. None of this would exist without you. Ibrahim shook his head. I provided resources, but you provided the soul. He gestured around the room. This is far beyond what I envisioned. You've created something truly extraordinary. Before Lily could respond, Ryan approached, greeting Ibrahim warmly. Just in time, Ryan said after handshakes and pleasantries. We're about to unveil the Cobra display. The three made their way to the automobile exhibit area, where a small crowd had already gathered. The turquoise Shelby gleamed under carefully positioned lighting, its restoration so perfect it seemed to have driven straight out of the 1960s. Beside it, an elegant display chronicled the car's journey, from the streets of Los Angeles with young Nadine and her husband, to Lebanon decades later, to its symbolic return in replica form. As Ryan began the official unveiling, explaining the car's significance to the crowd, Lily noticed a young woman standing slightly apart from the others, observing with particular intensity. Something about her seemed familiar, perhaps the tilt of her head or the way she clasped her hands as she listened. After the presentation concluded and the crowd dispersed to other areas, the young woman approached Lily directly. Ms. Moore, she said hesitantly, I'm Amira Bishara. I've been hoping to meet you. Lily smiled warmly. It's a pleasure to meet you, Amira. Are you a student in one of our programs? The young woman, perhaps 20 years old, shook her head. No, but my grandmother was a regular at the old cultural center. She passed away last year, but she always spoke of a kindness shown to her many years ago. Amira paused, seeming to gather her thoughts. My grandmother came to America in the 1990s, barely speaking English. She was lost and frightened in a hospital where she was working as a cleaner when a young linguistics student helped her, someone who knew enough Arabic to make her feel welcome. A distant memory stirred in Lily's mind, a frightened older woman in hospital cleaning staff uniform, crying in a corridor. A much younger Lily, still a student, using her basic Arabic vocabulary to offer comfort and assistance. Your grandmother, Lily said slowly. She wore a blue headscarf, had a photo of 2 children she kept showing me. Amira's eyes widened. Yes, that was her. She kept that photo of my father and aunt in her pocket always. The young woman's expression softened. She said that your kindness was what convinced her to stay in America when she was ready to give up and return to Lebanon. She said you spent your lunch breaks for weeks helping her learn essential English phrases. The memory crystallized further. Lily had been volunteering at the hospital as part of a community service requirement for her scholarship. The frightened cleaner had reminded her of her own grandmother, and the simple act of helping had seemed natural, unremarkable. I remember her, Lily said softly. Fatima, right. She brought me homemade baklava once. Amira nodded eagerly. Yes, she made the best baklava in the family. She followed your career a little through mutual acquaintances at the university. She was heartbroken when she heard about your scholarship troubles. Amira hesitated. She tried to find you afterward, but no one knew where you had gone. Lily felt Ibrahim's presence beside her, listening intently to this unexpected connection. Life took some difficult turns, she acknowledged simply. Grandmother would be so proud to see what you've created. Here, Amira continued, when I saw your name in the article about the center's opening, I knew I had to come and thank you properly. She reached into her purse and withdrew a small, carefully wrapped package. This was hers. She would want you to have it. The package contained a delicate silver filigree bracelet with small blue stones, a traditional Lebanese design. She always said it was a reminder of the blue sky she saw on her first day in America, Amira explained, when everything seemed possible again. Lily accepted the gift with deep gratitude, the significance of this full-circle moment settling over her. A small kindness offered years ago without expectation of return had created ripples that extended far beyond what she could have imagined. As Amira moved away to explore the center, Ibrahim spoke quietly. "You see now, don't you, why you were the right person for this project?" Lily nodded, still processing the unexpected connection. It's strange how life works sometimes. The smallest actions can have the greatest impact. "This is what my mother always believed," Ibrahim said. "That compassion creates invisible bridges between people, bridges that sometimes take years to reveal their full significance." The opening ceremony began shortly afterward, with Lily welcoming the assembled guests and community members. As she stood at the podium, looking out at the diverse gathering, Lebanese immigrants alongside lifelong Angelenos, wealthy donors beside neighborhood residents, elders and children representing multiple generations, she felt a profound sense of purpose. The Lebanese American Cultural Exchange Center stands as more than just a building, she began. It represents the belief that our differences need not divide us, that through understanding, respect, and shared experience, we create connections that enrich all our lives. She acknowledged the journey that had brought them to this moment, the challenges overcome, the partnerships formed, the community that had embraced the vision. Without explicitly mentioning her own transformation from homelessness to leadership, she spoke of the center as a place where everyone would be seen, valued, and welcomed, regardless of circumstance or background. As the evening progressed, into celebration, with traditional Lebanese dance performances, local musicians, and a feast that blended culinary traditions, Lily found a quiet moment to step outside onto the center's terrace. The Los Angeles skyline glittered against the night sky, a view that had once seemed to represent a world beyond her reach. Ryan joined her, offering a glass of sparkling water. "Penny for your thoughts?" Lily smiled, just thinking about how much can change in a year, about visibility and invisibility. Ryan nodded, understanding the reference to her former situation. "You know, my grandfather used to say that everyone has value and purpose, even when the world doesn't recognize it." "Your grandfather was a wise man," Ibrahim's voice came from behind them as he stepped onto the terrace. "As was my mother. She would have loved this place, not just for what it is, but for what it represents." The three stood in companionable silence for a moment, united by the journey they had shared and the unlikely friendship that had formed across differences of culture, experience, and circumstance. Inside, the celebration continued, a vibrant testimony to connection and community. Tomorrow the center would open its doors to the public, beginning its real work of education, cultural exchange, and bridge building. There would be challenges ahead, certainly, but also possibilities that extended far beyond what any of them could currently imagine. Lily fingered the silver bracelet Amira had given her, thinking of the frightened cleaner who had found courage through a simple act of kindness. From that small seed planted years ago without thought of future harvest, had grown connections that now nourished an entire community. "Ready to head back in?" Ryan asked after a moment. "I think they're about to serve the special dessert the culinary students prepared." Lily nodded, taking one last look at the city skyline. "Ready?" As they rejoined the celebration, Lily caught sight of a familiar face near the entrance. Matthew Thornton's former assistant, Parker, speaking animatedly with the center's volunteer coordinator. After Matthew's departure from Prestige Motors, Parker had reached out to Lily, expressing admiration for the Cultural Center project and offering his marketing expertise as a volunteer. Initially skeptical, Lily had given him a chance, a decision that had proven unexpectedly rewarding as Parker brought genuine enthusiasm and valuable skills to the center's outreach efforts. The sight reminded Lily of another lesson the past year had taught her, that people, like circumstances, could change and evolve when given the opportunity. The highs, Paths that had led each person in this room to the center were unique, some straight and privileged, others winding and difficult, but all had converged in this moment of shared purpose and celebration. As the evening drew to a close, Lily found herself standing beside the turquoise Shelby Cobra once more, admiring its gleaming surface and the story it represented. A voice beside her spoke in Lebanese Arabic, an elderly man from the community expressing his delight at seeing such a beautiful example of American automotive craftsmanship. Lily responded in his language, explaining the car's significance as a bridge between cultures and generations. The man's face lit up with the pleasure of being understood, of connecting in his native tongue. In that moment, Lily recognized the profound truth at the heart of her journey, that understanding, truly seeing and hearing one another across differences of language, culture, and experience, was perhaps humanity's most valuable capability. It was a gift she had been given through her education and life experiences, both privileged and painful. Now through the cultural center, it was a gift she could share with others, creating new connections that would ripple outward in ways she might never fully know. As the last guests departed and the staff began the process of preparing for tomorrow's public opening, Ibrahim approached Lily one final time. "My flight leaves early tomorrow, but I wanted to say a proper goodbye." He handed her a small envelope, "and to give you this." Inside was a photograph, a snapshot of Nadine Khoury sitting in the original Shelby Cobra after its arrival in Lebanon, her aged face radiant with joy as she gripped the steering wheel. "The last picture taken of my mother," Ibrahim explained softly. "She asked me to give it to you, along with her thanks for helping return this piece of her youth. She said to tell you that some journeys come full circle in ways we never expect." Lily traced the edges of the photograph, deeply moved by this final connection with a woman she had never met, but whose story had changed the trajectory of her life. "Thank you," she said simply, knowing the words were insufficient but finding no others adequate to the moment. Ibrahim smiled, the corners of his eyes crinkling. "No, Lily, thank you for reminding us all that sometimes the most valuable perspectives come from those society too often renders invisible. My mother would say you were the bridge we didn't know we needed." As Lily looked around at the center that had grown from an unlikely encounter outside a luxury car dealership, she understood that bridges connected in both directions, and that sometimes the greatest gift was simply being seen.